let's stay together because of the children. Over expecting in marriage. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brianne. Do we over expect? Do we put too many demands upon what marriage should be? You know, personally, I think people put a lot of expectations on marriage, and they should. Marriage is a wonderful, wonderful union between two people that stay together and work together and want to build a life together. And yet, when today's society, to me, seems so much, well, you know, if we fall out of love, let's, you know, get a divorce, or I'm not in love anymore, or whatever. Now, my husband and I have been together 30 some years now. And, you know, we've had highs and lows in our marriage, but we've had an amazing, wonderful marriage. And we have an amazing, wonderful marriage. And can there be difficult times in marriage? Of course, especially when you're raising kids and it's chaotic, or maybe when you're newly married and you've got all these bills coming in. And, you know, things can sometimes get a little bit out of balance. Back in my day, people stayed together because of the children. Whether it was an excuse to stay married or whether it really was so, I believe that today, a lot of people don't put their children as a priority, and I believe that they should. You know, now, there are circumstances where people should get divorced, you know, and if there's, you know, things going on that are extremely unhealthy, then perhaps that may be a very valid reason for separating or getting a divorce. But even during that kind of time, people need to work together, if at all possible, for their children's sake. Now, if, you know, people just say, well, I'm not in love anymore. I'm in love with the secretary, or I'm in love with the guy at the gym, or whatever. To me, that's not good enough reason, because love is, you know, sometimes it's kind of, it comes and goes. And so you were once in love with your spouse, otherwise you probably would not have married them. And so we can't depend always upon those emotions. You know, those emotions don't always stay steady. You know, when you marry somebody, you're going to see them differently than you would have seen them when they, you know, are you just dating. Dating is so different than marriage. You know, we see people up close and personal when you're married. You're no longer taking a journey by yourself. You're taking it with someone else. So they get your problems, you get their problems, you get their good points, they get, you know, you get their good points and they get your good points, you know, but it's a sharing of a journey now. And you're not just sharing your own journey, you're sharing their journey too. And so people don't realize that. And I think staying together for the children was a very, very valid reason. A divorce is just such a traumatic experience for children. Now, there are some situations that people do need to get divorced because there are circumstances in that family or in that relationship that are extremely unhealthy and not good in any kind, you know, for any kind of situation. But outside of those, you know, kinds of circumstances, often, you know, two people just need to work together. And when they've come together, they've had children, in my opinion, there needs to be a working relationship, because those children are valuable. And divorce and tension and unhappiness and bickering and fighting and all that affect children. It affects the family, and people don't realize that. One day I was listening to a woman talk bad about her husband, and she was talking bad about her husband in front of her children, and I just kind of cringed. I thought, those children are hearing that. They may not react in the moment, but they hear that. They can hear how that mother was talking bad about her husband. And I understand what the mother had valid reasons, but to me, it wasn't right in front of the children. The children were too young. People say, well, my children need to know everything. You know, there's some things that we have to shield children from, I believe, in my personal opinion. And, you know, the best thing a parent can give their children is a happy childhood. You know, and that means a sense of feeling stable and a sense of stability. When children feel that sense of instability, it's very scary for them. And they want their parents to get along. They don't want their parents bickering and fighting and having to take sides with the parents. And so, yeah, back in my day, people did stay together for the children. Nowadays, it's like the children are not a priority for a lot of parents. It's sort of like, well, you know, I'm just unhappy, or maybe you're not giving me what I want, or whatever. You know, also, I think now people put such high demands upon marriage. Back in my day, marriage was part survival. You stayed together because otherwise you really couldn't survive without each other. And so, you know, it was about survival. You couldn't get along without each other. And people back in those days had all kinds of problems too, but they somehow stayed together. Now, I am not saying that every marriage should stay together. That's not what I'm saying. There are situations that probably should be where the marriage goes, it's, you know, different ways. The people in the marriage go their different ways. But I think so many marriages are thrown away today. And people later look at it and they go, I wish I wouldn't have thrown it away. You know, I've talked about people who've even experienced infidelity in their relationship. And that's traumatic and that's terrible. And it's a breaking of trust. And I've talked about that in detail. All you have to do is go look up my videos of like, you know, marriage and infidelity or cheating or whatever and get my views. But a lot of marriages can be saved through that. Not all marriages have to end through that. It just depends on the marriage, the level of commitment on both parties, the level of forgiveness, the level of apologies, the level of all of that, you know. And back in my day, there was a lot of that cheating going on too. And it wasn't nice and people did get divorced, but often they worked through that at some point and, you know, there was forgiveness and they didn't do it anymore and they moved on. Now, I'm not in any way diminishing cheating. I think cheating is terrible. It's an awful thing that happens in marriages. But to me, that alone sometimes is not always that's not sometimes. A marriage still can be saved, even with cheating having taken place. I think it depends upon the rest of the marriage, the rest of the circumstances. And back in my day, like I said, they stayed together because of the children. And I do see a lot of, it's very, very hard for a lot of parents who get divorced. Now they have, you know, two different places. They're trying to support with two different places. Financially, there's financial problems, there's shifting back and forth. The kids go to, you know, holidays with one parent and another holidays with another parent. Now you've got, you know, boyfriends and girlfriends of the parents coming and going and they're trying to date and it's not working out and the kids start to get used to one person and then the one person is gone out of their life. It can be a very traumatic thing when parents get divorced. So I think that if someone's going to get divorced, they need to really think it through and make sure it is the right thing. And often how we feel today may be very different than how we feel later. Parents need to come together and get along. Even if they are going to get divorced, they need to come together and work together, not against each other. And so at some point, people need to work together. If they don't work together, it's going to affect the whole family. Okay, and so I really got to thinking about that today, the importance of staying together, and if at all possible, if it's the right thing to do, and even if you are going to separate or divorce, you need to do it the right way so that the family dynamics can stay as normal and healthy as possible. From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.